present arms. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 2. Color Guard post. Please remain standing. Chaplain Joel Abelub will lead us in prayer.
Almighty God, you who are the source of our life, strength, and purpose, in your presence alone we find health, hope, and life. Guide us during this hour of fellowship and reflection to be grounded with a healing reminder of your love to all whose lives we touch this day. For it is in your glory we gather and offer our prayers. Amen.
Please be seated. Good morning. I'm Tim Forbes, the chairman of the Rensselaer County Honor Deceased Veteran Committee. We've gathered here this morning to honor 2 deceased Rensselaer County veterans for the month of July. And those veterans are Peter J. and Frank A. Magneto. We're honored to have with us this morning their family, and I'm going to wing on this, Children is Anthony and Mary Rose Magneto. Grandchildren, Peter, Daniel, Kate. We've got Victoria. She was a great-granddaughter who's the star. And, hopefully I didn't miss everybody, but we've got a lot of police officers here too. Thank you for being here. Also with us today to honor our Veteran of the Month is Congressman Paul Tonko. Representing John Faso, Congressman Faso, is Ann Mueller, former Congressman Michael McNulty. I don't see anyone from Kathy Marcione's office, but she's usually here. Steve McLaughlin, the New York State Assemblyman, and usually his co-part, John T. McDonald III. Our own Rensselaer County Executive, Kathy Jimeno. Chairman of the Legislative Committees, Stan Brownell. Vice Chairman is Alex Shannon. Deputy Minority Leader Ed Manny. Veterans Committee, Tom Walsh. Joel Abelub is our Rensselaer County District Attorney. Sheriff Pat Russo came in, he's up there. Representing the Waterville Lead Arsenal is Lieutenant Colonel Hamilton and also Mr. John Snyder. The legislators assembled here, as best I could figure out, is Stan Brownell, Mark Fleming, Robert Loveridge, Ed Manny, and Tom Welch Sr. If I've missed any, sorry. As we are all aware, Memorial Day and Veterans Day are special days to remember all our veterans. This program was created to help us honor our veterans all year round. To us here in Rensselaer County, every day is Veterans Day. The Rensselaer County Honor a Deceased Veteran Program represents veterans organizations throughout the entire county. This includes members of the American Legion, Disabled American Veterans, Veterans of Lansingburg, Military Order of the Purple Heart, the Marine Corps League, Veterans of Foreign Wars, Korean War Veterans, Tri-County Council, Vietnam-era Veterans, Heroes at Home, the Combat Veterans Motorcycle Association, and also the Vietnam Veterans of America. I will now ask our legislative chairman, Stan Brownell, to come forward and tell us about our honored Veterans of the Month of July, Peter and Frank Magneto.
Good morning. Elected officials this morning here in Rensselaer County and all those assembled here, but mainly the family of the Magneto. And like it was mentioned, my name is Stan Brownell and I serve as the chairman here, and I'm proud to serve as the chair. And we are here to honor the life and service of brothers Peter J. Magneto and Frank A. Magneto. Peter was born in Troy, New York on December 31st, 1916. Frank was born in Troy, New York on November 30th, 1920. Their parents were Anthony and Jenny, and they had a sister, Connie. The Magneto family resided in Troy. Peter and Frank received their educations at Public School 14 and Troy High School. Peter enlisted in the United States Navy on October 14th, 1942, and served aboard the USS Nelson DD-623, a Gleaves-class destroyer. Peter participated in some of the most important invasions of the war in both the Mediterranean, African, and Mideastern theater, and the European theater. The invasion of Sicily, the invasion of North Africa, and the invasion of Normandy. He was awarded the Purple Heart as a result of an enemy action during the invasion of Normandy. Additionally, he was awarded the World War II Victory Medal, the American Campaign Medal, the European, African, Middle Eastern Campaign Medal with 2 bronze stars, and the Honorable Service Lapel Pin. Peter was honorably discharged from the United States Navy on February 10th, 1945. With his service to his country overseas ending, his service to his hometown was about to begin. In May of 1945, Peter joined the Troy Police Department as a patrolman. During his 39-year career of dedicated service to the city of Troy, he was promoted to sergeant and then to detective. On October 1st, 1949, Peter married the love of his life, wife Rose Calaruso Magneto, at St. Anthony's Church here in Troy. Together they had 2 children, a daughter, Mary Rose Garneau, a son, Anthony Magneto. Peter is also survived by 3 grandchildren, Peter, Daniel, and Kate Magneto Jones. Throughout his life in Troy and after his retirement from the police department in 1984, Peter was involved with many community activities and organizations. He was active in the Troy Benevolent Association and served 3 terms as its president. He instituted the association's Gold Shield and Silver Shield Awards. He received the Association Founders Award and its President's Award. He was a member of the PBA Board of Directors for 18 years and served as chairman of the board for several terms. He was also active in the Northeastern Police Conference and the Police Conference of New York, Incorporated. Peter also had a love for Troy Police PBA softball teams. Peter was a member of the Military Order of the Purple Heart, the Corporal Willie Chapter Disabled American Veterans, and the Emerald Athletic Club. Peter was a communicant of Sacred Heart Church. He enjoyed watching the Yankees, loved to play golf and travel. He especially loved family vacations. We are also here today to honor Frank Magneto. Frank enlisted in the United States Navy on October 10th, 1942, and served as a seaman first class aboard the USS Petroff Bay CVE-80, a Casablanca class escort aircraft carrier. Frank participated in some of the most important battles of the island hopping campaign in the Pacific Theater: the Battle of the Western Carolines, the Battle of Leyte, the Battle of Luzon, the Battle of Iwo Jima, and the Battle of Okinawa. For his service, Frank was awarded the Presidential United Citation Ribbon with 1 star, the Victory Medal, the American Theater Medal, Asian Pacific Medal, and the Philippine Liberation Medal. Frank was honorably discharged from the United States Navy on March 3rd, 1946. Like his older brother Peter, excuse me. Frank returned home to Troy and served his hometown as a firefighter with the Troy Fire Department for 22 years. He was also a trained plumber and practiced for trades for many years. Frank was a member of the Troy Uniformed Firefighters Association, where he was elected to various offices. He was also a member of the United States Professional Uniformed Firefighters Association. Frank was a Troy Boys Club youth basketball coach. He loved playing golf and visiting the Saratoga racetrack. This morning, Rensselaer County has vowed to never forget its veterans, whether deceased or living. And it's so thankful here for the family to be here with us this morning to let us honor the Magneto brothers, Peter and Frank. Thank you for sharing them with us. Tim?
Thank you, Stan. I will now ask Congressman Paul Tonko to come forward.
Thank you, Tim. Good morning, everyone. Always an honor to be able to join in these ceremonies with our leaders of Rensselaer County, with Kathy and the members of the legislature, to say thank you and to pause in our busy schedules to reflect upon the greatness of individuals who have offered us the freedoms that we enjoy. And so this morning it's rather a unique commemoration and reflection with the brothers, Magneto, being recognized and thanked. To know that they gave of themselves for this nation is a powerful thought. Donning the uniform in the midst of World War II, I believe, if I heard correctly, enlisted in the Navy the same year, the two brothers, or was it a year apart? Year apart. I thought you had said 42 for both, but nonetheless, shortly thereafter, Frank followed his brother Peter, and the only sons, I believe, of the family. So the family gave much in protecting our liberties and freedoms, and theirs was a daunting task. As we heard, the much decorated Peter, including that Purple Heart that was given him, certainly honored him with the Purple Heart, and his activities on the battleship in the European theater and the African theater, and the many, many medals that he, with which he was recognized, speak to the valor and the patriotism that he undoubtedly bore as he protected this nation and promoted those freedoms to freedom-loving people around the world, as did his brother Frank in the Pacific Theater as he entered into the same service in the Navy. And we recognize that, again, he was much decorated for his valor. So two tremendously strong brothers that found it within themselves to step up and serve this nation, and to understand that the freedoms don't come free, that it requires valor and commitment and self-sacrifice, and a deeply rooted focus on a cause larger than oneself. What I think is admirable, too, is that they came back to serve, continue to protect people, the people of this state and this region, and one through the police force, Peter being actively involved in protecting people in the uniform of a police officer, and recognizing that he cherished that commitment to community by fighting for police and all that is due them through the various organizations and through the PBA. So again, totally involved as a public servant to build a better world, a better community. And Frank in a similar capacity as a firefighter. So, and again, very involved in the associations that spoke to the leadership of firefighting. So we're honoring two giants this morning, brothers who made their mark, penetrated the hearts and souls of people whom they called hometown residents, and certainly those beyond. And this morning it's great to be with the Magneto family, to say thank you for service to this country in the banner of Peter and Frank as they went forth as young men, the only sons in their family, to step up to the plate at the same time and serve in a war that was much recognized to be one that created a strength in America. So this morning, on behalf of my colleague and friend, John Faso, I know that Ann is here on his behalf, but on behalf of Congressman Faso and myself, we ask that flags be flown over our nation's capital in loving tribute and recognition of these two fine gentlemen as they served their nation in the Navy in tough times and made their mark and came back to serve their community. So it's my honor to present these flags to you. Ann, if you'd like to join me.
Congressman, they both did enlist in 1942.
Oh, okay.
Frank in August and Peter in October.
I was listening. So that was a powerful impact, I got to believe, on the family. So thank you so much.
I will now ask Congressman John Faso's assistant, Ann Muller, to come forward.
Sorry, I was so presumptuous, but I just wanted to take the time to say that we are honored to be here to reflect on Frank and Peter's contribution to this great nation. And just for the sake of time, we've gone through the whole bio, but I just wanted to reflect, not only were they active in the military, but they were true members of their community. Frank was an investigator with the Troy Police Department for 39 years, protecting the city justly. And he was elected president of the Troy Benevolent Association and held the office for 3 terms. Frank served as a firefighter for 22 years with the Troy Fire Department. He was also a fan of sports, coaching the Troy Boys Club youth basketball team. The most important role that both men played was with their family. Peter was always a caring husband to Rose and a loving father and grandfather. Peter, although unmarried, gave his compassion to his siblings throughout his life. Peter and Frank led a great life of serving others in the country that they helped defend in every sense of the word. Therefore, on behalf of Congressman John Faso and the constituents of the 19th Congressional District, we recognize the exemplary service of Peter J. Magneto and Frank A. Magneto to our nation. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you, both Paul and Ann. I will now ask Rensselaer County Executive Kathy Jimeno to come forward. I was going to say the best, but I won't ad-lib.
Thank you, Tim. Good morning. Before I start my remarks about the Magneto brothers, I just wanted to make mention of the fact that I would ask you to keep the family and friends of Ed Lamora in your prayers. Ed was a past DAV state commander and also the commander of the Reverend Francis A. Kelly Chapter 38 DAV, and he passed away recently, Ed Lamora. Thank you. So first, I want to thank the Magneto family for such a wonderful turnout this morning. It's always terrific when we have a good turnout from the family because we get the opportunity to share our remarks to all of you. And oftentimes, I know as a daughter of a veteran, we don't always understand what it is that our parents or grandparents went through in their service to our country. And so to hear the story told is really pretty remarkable. And I look at these two gentlemen who, as we now have clarified, yes, both joined the same year, and actually it was the younger brother, I believe, who joined first, followed by his older brother. Both joined the Navy, and I'm a Navy person because my dad's a Navy person, so yay, Navy. But also, I thought about as well what Congressman Tonko said, which is now there's their mom worrying about two of them, and their service was in the two different theaters, one in the European theater, D-Day +6. We've heard, of course, of the horrific battle that D-Day was on the beaches of Normandy. And as well then, Frank was in the Pacific. And we've oftentimes heard of the horrors of the war in the Pacific as the Japanese fighted so hard to maintain control of the islands as they kept losing one group after another. So I think about the fact that here's two young men who probably had not been too far from home before. Maybe they'd been out of the city, but perhaps not out of the state, and yet they get on troop ships. They hear the call of their nation, they get on troop ships, and they go off to foreign lands into some of the toughest battles that they probably never would have thought that they were going to experience, but they did that for their nation. They put their nation ahead of their own self-interest, ahead of their own family's interests, for that matter. I keep thinking of your poor grandmother home worrying about them. But again, as so many of that greatest generation did, they both came home and they gave, again, to their community. They built the nation that we have, the great nation that we have, one through service, and Frank through his service in the fire department, Peter through his service in the police department. And I have to guess that that was probably a good experience based on the fact that so many of their descendants then followed into the police department as well, that there was something very rewarding about his service, and I'm sure he shared that sentiment with you. And of course, leaving this wonderful family as a wonderful tribute, a continuation of dedication to each other, a continuation of dedication to the community. So we thank you this morning for allowing us to honor your father, your grandfather, your great-grandfather to the girls, and we thank you for their service and for the family sacrifice as well. On behalf of all the residents of Rensselaer County, I'd like to present to you a proclamation honoring each of the brothers Peter J. Magneto and Frank A. Magneto. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. I will now ask Rensselaer County Legislative Veterans Chairman Tom Waltz Sr. to come forward.
Will I ask the other legislators please join me? It's always a pleasure to come to these meetings here and in honoring our deceased veterans, but it's even a greater pleasure when we honor two brothers who served in World War II. Unfortunately, our World War II veterans are disappearing at a high rate right now, and they're just getting up, and they're all in, most of them are in their 90s. But to have two Navy veterans here, that's really something. We haven't had too many Navy veterans, but Alex Shannon, who is our Vice Chairman of the Legislature, is also a Navy veteran, and he'd be happy right now. It's even a big honor to have both Peter and Frank serving in two different theaters of operation, one in the Pacific and one in the European. And both of them were really into the battle, right in the middle of everything there. and it's, at least the ships didn't sink anyway. I always said, I stayed out of the Navy because I can't swim. We have a very large family here, and they are right now part of the family business. If you watch Blue Blood, you see what their family business is. They all got all cops on their family, and they have dinner every Sunday. And I don't know if you guys do that or not, but we have 2 police officers and 1 FBI agent here. So their family is really putting their service right out there yet. And Frank and Peter had a big part of that. As you come in to the room here, on the left-hand side, you pass a bunch of plaques. And they are all our deceased veterans that we've honored over the last years. There's probably close to 200 of them there. And your father and grandfather's names will be on them plaques next year, for this year. So we do pay them honor for their service. And I certainly pay honor for our policeman service and the FBI agent too. That you have a big job and you're putting your life on the line every day. I want to present right now this proclamation honoring Peter and Frank from the legislature, and it's signed by our chairman, Stan Brownell. Before I leave, I want to remind everybody, tomorrow night is going to be the first night we're going to be honoring live veterans. And anybody that's a veteran here or knows of a veteran that's still kicking, we have applications to put in for them so that we can recognize them here at the legislature. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. I will now ask New York State Assemblyman Steve McLaughlin to come forward.
Thank you, Tim. Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here with my colleagues in government and the family, the great Magneto family. My colleague, John McDonald, is typically here with me. I spoke with John yesterday. I actually picked up the certificates from John at his pharmacy, and I think John is actually at the Albany County Honor Vet because that one got rescheduled, so he said, you handle this one, I'll handle that one. But John and I usually share the honor here with the families, but John sends his best and is sorry he couldn't make it. You know, it's a great thing to see this legacy continue with the Magneto family, clearly a law enforcement and protection type family. And you think back to that greatest generation, you know, they went off to war, put on that uniform, came home, and in this case, put on a different uniform and continued that legacy of service. One in the fire department and one in the police department. I'm sure there's a little good-natured rivalry there between the two of them, as there always is between police and fire. But two brothers that really gave a lot. And, you know, we've heard that a few different times. Their mother must have been just worried as can be. To have one in service is tough enough, but to have two in the line of fire like they were had to be very stressful. But that's the way it was back then. All the guys went off to war, and thankfully they both came home and were able to continue their service to this community. So we are thankful for that and thankful for you, and it's an honor to be here. And on behalf of John McDonald and I want to present the family certificates from us at the New York State Assembly. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. I will now ask Skip Diamond from the Rensselaer County Honor Deceased Veteran Committee to come forward to help present the plaques. Committee members, please rise. Please stand for the closing prayer.
Day is done, gone the sun, from the lake, the hill, and the sky. All is well. God of compassion, dignity, and strength, watch over these veterans and their families. Bless them and grant their family comfort and everlasting peace. Amen.
Honor Guard, please retire the colors.
Retrieve, polish. Right, face. Forward, march.
Two. This concludes our Honor a Vet ceremony for this month. Thank you for coming to honor our deceased veterans of the month of July, Peter and Frank Magneto. Please join us for our next Honor a Vet ceremony scheduled for August 14th. Before we go our separate ways, we'll take a few family photos. Then we're going to reassemble out by the county flagpole to raise a flag in Peter and Frank's memory. Thank you all again.